I'm the provost here at Metro Campus at Tulsa Community College, and just again, thank you for being here today for this great event that we are so excited to host for another year. I've heard some great things about sessions this morning, and certainly are looking forward to our 1 o'clock speaker, Pamela Kingfisher, who will be introduced in just a moment. But first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for your involvement and your participation, and certainly interest in issues around sustainability that are important not only to those of us at Tulsa Community College, but to our community at large. And thank you for the great work that you do on behalf of sustainability. It's my privilege to introduce Professor Jim Pappas, who's department chair of the Department of Management at the Spear School of Business at OSU, and they've so graciously provided refreshments for us today. Let's give OSU and the Spear School a round of applause for that. And with that, to introduce our afternoon speaker, let me welcome Jim Pappas.
Hi, welcome to today's Sustainability Conference. My name is Jim Pappas. I just wanted to start off by saying a little bit about OSU. We came to the sustainability game a little bit late, and we have been trying and working so hard to kind of offer new classes and classroom learning environments for business students. But it wasn't until recently that we realized that, sustainability is a very multidisciplinary term. It incorporates a lot of different aspects, and it is almost impossible in a university setting to create a multidisciplinary program. So we've finally partnered with environmental sciences, and we've kind of started to offer new classes that span multiple areas in the business school over to environmental sciences and into other areas. So we're looking for students that are interested in all these different types of areas that we're talking about today, and maybe that are interested in business too, in the application for business too. So we're very open to new classes, new learning environments, and also as a business school, we're often very focused on getting students good jobs on the way out. So that's an important part of it too. So thank you for coming today. I'm here to introduce Pamela Kingfisher, a distinguished Cherokee woman who lives and works on her grandmother's allotment land in northeast Oklahoma. She grows organic food, and she works to preserve and utilize medicinal plants. So this will be another good, interesting area to explore sustainability, I think. Pamela's organizing activities assisted in stopping the production of uranium at the Kerr-McGee Sequoia Fuels plant in Gore, Oklahoma. And she worked in the Indian Health Service for 14 years developing medical libraries and establishing tumor registries. She's been a consultant for the nonprofit field for the last 20 years. Pamela consults with organizational capacity building, food sovereignty, women's rights, and environmental protection of her clients include the Landon Foundation, First Peoples Fund, the Ford Foundation, National Farm to School Network, the Southern Sustainable Agriculture Working Group, and the Cherokee Nation. In 2015, Pam was part of the U.S. delegation appearing before the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. So what a wide range of accolades and areas that she's involved with. Please welcome Pamela Kingfisher.
Osiyo, Tahiju, Ost, Ostana, Johnsta. So in my language, which I don't speak much of, I learned a lot of dirty words and hi, how are you? And I'm great. And my name is Pam. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here. It's an honor always to speak in Oklahoma and to follow up on some of my heart's work as we're looking at contamination and water. My father started making plutonium for the atom bomb in 1943. Most of our neighbors were all recruited from Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas, and they worked on the low level. They built the plant, and then they were put in the hot boxes. So I became an activist in about 4th grade, listening to Daddy's stories and going, well, that ain't right. What do you mean they went out there at 1 a.m. and slept all night and just marked the good numbers? And now we're seeing those tanks collapsing and all of that. So at one point in my life, I just went, I gotta stop fighting. If you're just fighting all the time against something, you're just ready to go. You're gonna smack somebody if they hit you, tap you on the shoulder. And I realized I was out of balance and I needed to work on what I believed in. Do I have a clicker? Can I have my show? I'm just taking off here. I'm born to the Bird Clan. We're messengers, and I tell stories. So I don't know where my tech person is. Yeah, it's here. Do I just touch it? Do I find it myself? Where? Oh, that?
It's not a touch screen. And here's where, if you have, this is where your,
Sorry, y'all.
here's the mouse.
Oh, a mouse. I know
That's what we
mice.
needed to discuss.
I know that. Thank you, ladies. So there I am. There's my bees. This is my land. My land was given to my grandmother in 1906 when they were ready to make statehood, and she got 240 acres. She died in the 1918 flu epidemic when my mother was 2. So later, the county wrote my mom a letter in Washington State at the nuclear power plant saying, we've sold your land, and if you want some of it, here's some left you can still buy. So she bought back 160 acres from the county because no one spoke the language, no one probated wills or, any of that stuff. We didn't know about any of that. So I've pretty much fallen under the spell of my bees, and they're amazing. So I've got a lot of medicinal areas and reclaiming some pasture lands. My grandfather farmed it and had a sorghum mill. So I know the systems that we used to have in place around me, and there's really nothing there now except a couple of chicken farms. But no one's spraying pesticides, so I know my honey's organic and my bees are gonna live, and so that's pretty good. In talking about Cherokee being native and the native agricultural systems of this country, this was from the 1600s, a drawing, and women have always been the providers and keepers of our families. Indigenous women created corn. It was one little kernel, and it popped, and they realized, we got something here. And they just kept working with those grasses to develop corn. And in our creation stories for the Cherokee, Salu is our corn mother, and she is our creation story. So all of our cultures have food at the center of them. You can go anywhere in the country and talk to natives. We have carried those stories. You can go anywhere in the world, and those stories, those foods are at the center of the conversations, at the center of the table. So it's way more than sustenance, it's culture. I got into an argument with a big African-American woman at a conference a couple months ago, and she was, it ended up in the bathroom, and she said, well, white people don't have culture. And I said, what, you've never been to Minnesota, really? And, besides which, there's no such thing as white people. We're all pretty well mixed blood. All of our cultures, our bloodlines lead back to some foods. I'm in a book club right now, and we're reading a manuscript out of Nuremberg and the death camps. Those women wrote down recipes from their Jewish culture on scraps of paper, and it's been compiled in Memory's kitchen. Those women are all dead. They would never cook that food again, but it was a memory of culture and life while they were in those camps. So I think a lot about the Cherokees and what we've lost, what we've gained, going back through the records. Well, here, talk over that one. I found that John Kingfisher and my family had bees. In 1842, once the Cherokees all got to Oklahoma, there was a roll call, and we could go with our neighbor. I'd say, well, Katie knows me. She knows I have this land, and I had, 80 acres and 40 peach trees and 10 boxes of bees. And my wife had, they list out every cup and spoon and silk thread or whatever they had. You can tell who was poor and who wasn't, and who had slaves and who didn't. And so it's all there. And I went through and gathered all the beekeepers and counted up all the beehives we left behind in Georgia. Yeah, those peach trees are good in Georgia. And, we started all that and had the bees. And that, so anyway, that just really ties me always to that food and that culture. So I'm tackling some big words today. Food sovereignty, food security. What does all this mean? And so sovereignty is defined as the right of peoples to healthy, culturally appropriate food produced through ecologically sound, sustainable methods, and their right to define their own food and agriculture systems. So we lost that a long time ago, and it's our chance to rebuild it. In Oklahoma, every county used to have a cannery. We had trains that drove through and picked up food. I think we still have a cannery in Stillwell. But we've lost so much. It's sad. So this corn is a picture of some heritage corn. We have the Pawnees here with their eagle corn, the Poncas with their amazing corns, and they're all very different. And so you can see a corn collection and see the people's history and where they were in that corn. Food security is defined by the United Nations Committee on World Food Security as a condition in which all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. This is a hydroponics bus. So we've got a lot of new ways to grow food. We've got some tribes like the Ute in Utah who have such contaminated soil they can't grow gardens. We were working in farm to school, and it's like, nah, we can't grow anything in our dirt. And so, okay, take a bus. Urban people and schools, this is a really creative way to grow in a water system. So there's people who are doing amazing things. And again, these are just really big words for human rights, for that basic access to food in all its variations. When we feed ourselves, it brings in that dignity, implying that sufficient food is available and that people have the means to access it and that it adequately meets the individual's dietary needs. We've gotten away from that, and we're looking at, maybe some food stamp boxes coming in the mail. It's just going to get worse. I don't think that would include the cheese, which is very, very good. But we really have to think about what's available. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what's in Oklahoma. But again, this ancient knowledge has all been confirmed. Not only the medicine plants, this is a mayflower on my land, it's very medicinal, it just kind of under the forest, it just grows and spreads, and there's so much that we have here. The bloodroot that was so valuable, we still have all this in our lands. The elderberry research that was released recently telling us, yes, it will cure the flu. So everybody I know is making elderberry syrup and tinctures and going after it. Even aspirin came out of indigenous ways and usages of plants. So those indigenous systems are still really valuable as well. The Three Sisters is a regenerative agriculture. It's now become popular again because it is no-till, no fertilizers, and no chemicals. We believe it's the first crops that were cultivated by many of the Native American tribes, and all three of these crops have been found in ruins throughout the Americas, Mesa Verde in Colorado, Chaco Canyon in New Mexico, the Range Valley in Utah, and Chichen Itza and the Mayan ruins throughout Mexico. Maize, or corn, is notorious for sucking the nitrogen right out of the soil. And the beans, on the other hand, replace that mineral nitrogen back into the soil. So essentially, this is the effect of crop rotation without rotating. We knew that, yeah, we can plant those same three things right there in those same fields, and it will do that job of crop rotation. Maize maximizes photosynthesis and grows straight and tall, and the beans use those stalks to grow up it. Easily picking those beans, especially for the kids, makes it really fun. And then the squash grows under as it rolls out and likes that humidity and shade, protecting. So then it also keeps the weeds away because it's spreading out underneath the corn and the beans. So it's really kind of a perfect system, and it's being discovered by, people in colleges with brains, and they're talking about it now. So it's really great that, these indigenous knowledge systems that we knew worked are being recognized. And we're starting to see ways to bring back these systems and to simplify the way we grow food and the way that we take care of our own soil, our own land, no matter how small or how large. And we know that there's higher nutritional values in traditional heirloom varieties. So Monsanto seeds, they're terminator seeds. They will not grow the next year. So the farmer has to go back and buy new seeds. They're also being shot full of things. So they're already sugar ready. Those seeds are already carb loaded, and they're sugar hungry. They create diabetes immediately because they are higher in carbohydrates, and that makes you hungry for that sugar. It's fascinating. I'm not a scientist. I just play one in front of the TV now and then. But it's all being proven out by a lot of really smart folks doing the research on ancient things that are telling us this. The Potawatomi lima beans are low in fat, high in carbs, but protein as well. B vitamins are found, including thiamine, pantothenic acid, niacin, and B6. So going back to those heirloom seeds, we get back to more nutrition. As we know, we've talked about how the soil we've really much farmed it out, especially in the middle of the country, the breadbasket. We've got to rebuild that soil, but we farmed out those seeds too. So going back to really traditional seeds, Seed Savers Networks, there's Siskiyou Seeds, there's So True Seeds. There's some amazing seed companies that are growing out these ancient heirloom crops, and they're available. You can buy them. They're fun. They're crazy looking. The gourds and pumpkins, and the kids love that. And these are some kids planting some trees down in Tahlequah. And again, the traditional corn has higher nutritional values, and the hominy corn is really high in carbs and protein, and one serving of hominy yields 47% of the daily reference value, or the DRV, which hopefully you're reading your labels on everything, and it has half the calories of market corn. So again, you just break back down out of that what we've fed ourselves, all of the subsidies that have created this broken system. Really. And then it's beautiful. I mean, who doesn't love blue corn and red corn? And I brought back some seeds from Guatemala this last spring I'm going to plant this year, and I'm just so excited. And I'm going to plant them in a circle and surround it with other crops so the deer don't ever get all the way in. When you plant, you're supposed to plant in thirds, a third for me, a third for the birds, and a third for seed, right? Because we're going to be feeding the deer and the birds, and we're going to know. So that's kind of that planting in thirds is how we are also generous to our neighbors and don't get so mad at the deer and the birds. And again, squash on that same Three Sisters, this Arikara squash has 13% of the DRV for fiber, 64% for vitamin A. I mean, who knew? It's like, what, squash? And then half the calories and double the calcium and magnesium of the market equivalent. So you get back into these heritage foods. We didn't take vitamins. We didn't need supplements. We had all of it in just regular food and using our two hands. It doesn't have to be so complicated. Butternut squash is a really popular winter squash vegetable. They store almost all winter, and they're on a long trailing vine. It's usually cultivated in the warmer climates, but we do real well with it here. It has edible fruits and flowers as well as the seeds. So when I get a big squash, man, I scoop out those seeds. If I've made sure I've bought it organic and dry those, and I'm ready to go. I've got enough to share with my friends. We have a seed saving club in Cherokee County, so we all share seeds that we've grown out, that especially the heirlooms. So we're not buying them every year. It's not like, ooh, organic, you're so expensive. No, we're pretty, paper towels and paper plates and just kind of doing it on the down low and sharing with our neighbors and making that relationship. I run websites and Facebook and do all kinds of stuff like that. So I traded for half a cow with my neighbor 2 miles up the road because they're running summer camps and they're teaching people how to cook on the fire and camp out and do all this. And that meat is so good. I don't know that I can go back to store-bought meat. I just can't do it. I actually start to get sick. But so we've spent the whole winter on their meat, and we've got chickens and the bees and all that. And I'm not a cow person. I'm not going to get cows, but I have a cow friend, and that's what I need. And I have honey, and they want some honey, and to learn bees. So that's how we're doing it in my county, in a really distant place, in a food desert. I'm 7 miles from a grocery store. I'm from a gas station. I'm 20 miles from a grocery store any way I go. So learning how to do this with people. This is how we've always done it in our communities, buying local, knowing your farmer, knowing where that came from. So off I go anyway. But we are losing a lot of the plant diversity. About 75% of the world's plant diversity has been lost. So the more that we are the ones bringing it back, I feel like that's such a positive step. Instead of my fighting all the time, I'm working on what I believe in, and it's starting to happen, especially when I'm working with the kids in Farm to School. So this is watercress in my creek. We had a little flood last night, so I couldn't get out across the creek. I went up over the hill and around the way and through the neighbor's lock gate, but I got here. But it's more important to me to have that wild creek and to have to put up with it a couple times a year and to not get out and to have stores of food. And, but I was raised at a nuclear power plant by a Depression Okie. So I've been canning and hoarding food all my life. I used to call it fallout food. And then my kids were raised, you always have food in your purse and you think, oh, it's the kids, No, I'm an old lady and I got food in my purse. It's, anything goes down, I'm set. I think we stayed home 6 weeks last spring in 2 floods and ran out of cheese and wine near the end. Yes, but I can and freeze and do all of that. So this again is my pasture, and oh, that's a horse trailer, the little white thing way down there past the dead barn. So there's 18,000, this is old census numbers. The agricultural census is happening right now, so we should have new numbers this fall or spring. But 18,772 farms in northeast Oklahoma with a combined annual sales of approximately $964.8 million. Hello, really? Northeast Oklahoma? So what are we selling? Livestock sales made up $746 million. And crop sales, including hay, soybeans, wheat, corn, fruits, vegetables, made up $218.8 million of total annual sales. So we got a little bit going on here, but where does it go? Is it staying local? Most of that meat goes to Amarillo to get in the feeder lot, right? So they corn them up, fatten them up, get them off that grass-fed lean. We don't want that. Then they ship them to Chicago to be slaughtered. Then they ship them to St. Louis to be cut up and packaged. Then they come back to Reesers, or no, Reesers has its own farm. What am I saying? But it comes back to our stores. So really, that meat has traveled quite a distance over some time. So I much prefer knowing, now the Quapaws have started their own meat processing plant up in northeast corner. It's fabulous, USDA approved, working with the University of Arkansas in developing that. They have a huge classroom. The tribes are getting ready to take folks in to learn butchering, to learn the whole process, and food safety, which is huge. We've kind of ignored that for a while out in the woods and on the reservations, but we're stepping up, and we're going to step up to food safety because we want you to be able to buy those products, wild rice, all of those things that are unique to Native nations that are American foods. To be able to get those. And anyway, so 14,000 of those farms have total annual sales, which means the others are probably like me, just feeding themselves and bartering and just trying to get going and make it. So again, numbers are not my thing, so here you go. The economics in these food deserts, only 15% of the adults in northeast Oklahoma eat the 5 or more servings of fruits and vegetables per day. And this was from 2010, when she's going yes, the standards were raised. And so this was for schools and for all people. And so we started looking at how far behind are we? Only 4.4% of those farms sell directly to a consumer, and that's approximately 3.4 million. Today and tomorrow, I think, is the Oklahoma Farmers Market meeting in Oklahoma City. Our farmers market in Tahlequah's going great. I think we're at 6 years now, or I don't know, heading to 10, but we're doing really good, and it's really made a lot of difference in our community, and we could see that in the schools too. So out of this, if each household just spent that $10 a week on locally grown, get to the farmer's market, hand that money to somebody you know. Look somebody in the face and go, I support you. Give them that money, and it'll stay in the community. It'll be recycled, and we need to plug those money holes Because when we've just got outflow, we really need to support the folks at home so they can make a living and actually stay on the farm. Most farmers that are growing vegetables especially, or fruits, they're all working somewhere else. And this is a part-time weekend job, which can be done, but it's tough. So there's money. There's money in this. There's jobs. There's creativity. There's new ways to do things. We just have to get after it. Again, just some more of the stats of Northeast Oklahoma. Residents spend almost $1.3 billion on food. Are we buying Cheetos or celery? You know, who's happy in the back seat of the car? Cheetos. You know, so we've got a lot of work to do as far as educating our folks about why we have diabetes, why we're all obese, and, you know, it's just kind of scary. But we have a demand side. So this is not a dead-end world to look at. This is growing, and I believe it's just going to get stronger and more important. We're down to water and food, y'all. If we can't have that, we're in trouble. And when I was in the United Nations in South Africa in 2002, all those companies were buying up all the water rights in all these poor countries. In Africa, South Africa, there was a town that had a Pepsi plant, but you couldn't buy water. You couldn't get water. You could buy Pepsi. You could not get water. And that's killing people. It just is. So those are the two things I think we're really going to come down to fighting about is water, those wells. Are they clean? Can we drink our water? Where is our food coming from? Are we really going to eat that chicken they're shipping from here to China and back? I'm not. I'm sorry. I'll be out there with my hatchet learning to do it again. I used to do that, and now I'm just so fond of my girls that it's hard. But I like chicken, and I'm not eating chicken that went to China to get killed and cut up and come back. I'm just not going to do it. I don't trust them. If you look at the environment, and anyway, I do go on. So again, money, 60% spent on groceries and the remainder on eating out. In Tahlequah, we don't have too many healthy places, maybe a couple that we could actually eat out good food, decent food, real food, good vegetables, cooked right, that aren't cooked to death, you know, or everything's fried. So we've been doing cooking classes in our community centers. We've been doing blackberry jam classes and really trying to, you know, bring back some of the taste buds and thoughts about how we cook and eat. Again, these farms aren't raising a lot of fruits or vegetables or tree nuts, but an annual sales of $5 million would tell me, yeah, go ahead and plant those trees. Go ahead and, you know, make sure you've got the water source to grow those. And farm-to-school opportunities really cropped up around 2010 when the Farm-to-School Network and some other organizations really pushed for the USDA to start giving out grants. And at first it was $5 million. And now we're up to $10 million, pushing towards $15 million, so that schools can make changes. Most schools drive a truck up to the back door, slide that stuff into the freezer. Later on, somebody pulls it out the front end, shoves it in a microwave. It goes out the other end onto the plates. In Louisiana, there's new schools being built without kitchens. The truck drives up, they drive the cart around to the classrooms. I mean, it was kind of horrifying. My son is 43 years old. It had been a while since I'd been in a grade school, and I was just shocked at some of the things I was learning and seeing. In Tahlequah, most of our schools are in one district. One woman buys all the food. She wants it to be easy. She wants to mark 6 weeks. You get your food, the same menu the whole year. Don't talk to me. Don't be creative. I don't care how many pumpkins they're growing down the road, you know, which is sad because we have huge blackberry farms and blueberry farms all around Tahlequah. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But out in the country, she's like, oh, yeah, so-and-so brings his watermelons. We know when he's coming. He just drives up the back door and I got cash. You know, so the smaller and more in control the schools are, the more they can do. And the more they know their farmers, and the more their farmers know them. He drives past that school every day. He knows those kids, he knows their parents, and he's very concerned that it's watermelon time, and those kids need watermelons, or pumpkins is another thing. That's a real easy buy. Meat's a good start. You know, if people say we buy local, usually it's milk, comes in on the truck. But who are the farmers you're really working with? And that takes some time and relationships. So again, the stats are up here about our poverty rates and food insecurity. And honestly, a lot of these parents don't know how to cook. They don't understand the nutritional values, and they're too busy. There's 2 parents working, running kids to 5 different events after school. When is dinner? Is it in the car on the way home? You know, we've just lost so much in this hurry, hurry world. And to me, kids seem way overbooked, but then I start to feel old of, you know, if I was a kid now, I'd probably be running some small country somewhere. But, you know, they've got these opportunities. It's pretty amazing what all they can do. Again, there's 124 school districts in Northeast Oklahoma serving 180,000 students each day. So that's scale. One farmer can't think, oh, I'm going to supply every green bean my school needs for the year. But what can you supply? And are there specialty crop block grants that you might get so you're the one supplying those strawberries? These are strawberries these guys are planting under plastic. And they are going to produce, and Bill's Berries in Northwest Arkansas is a global seller. They pick every strawberry in rubber gloves right into the plastic containers. He's got global gap, so if Walmart wants him to ship straight to Asia or wherever, he's got it global gap certified. It can all get on the airplane and go. So again, the food safety. So he's like, farm to school. I don't want to mess with every little school, and I just can't do this. I'm a big boy. I don't have time. I need to make money. You know, this is all scale. I can't sell wholesale to these, 5 women down the road. So 3 schools got together, and they said, okay, we found a 4th school with a big enough freezer and parking lot. If you will meet us 5 times during strawberry season, we'll buy all our strawberries from you. So he's like, okay. They talked him into it. He's kind of a rough old guy. They stroked him a little bit, and his berries are really good. But it's like, you got the best. We got to have you, Bill. So he delivers a big truck to that one school, and 4 schools buy from him in that one site. So they figured out how to make it work for the farmer and make it work for the school cooks. So those kids have fresh strawberries, because that's things we have around here. And the apples, if you're going to have a taste testing, if you're choosing apples for the year and you're the food service provider and you're having to choose, let the kids choose. Give them 3 different apples and let them vote. Again, the more we give access and energy and empowerment to these kids, they're just going to lead us right out of Parkland, Florida. Thank you very much. I know, now I'll cry. So again, growing to scale, we have blackberries and blueberries in Cherokee County. 1 meal for all those kids in Northeast Oklahoma would require 30,000 pounds of berries. So scale that down. If I'm going to talk to my school down the road, how many berries do I have to grow for you? So another thing we did in Arkansas is this only happens 1 time a year for a month. Most school gardens, by the time they get a tomato growing, the kids are gone. So it's all the custodians that are keeping the garden going and getting the... So in Arkansas, we worked with a school, and we were able to give them a small grant, and they were going to Peach Pickin' Paradise to get some peaches. And the folks up at Peach Pickin' Paradise weren't going to do anything special. It was just y'all come and pick your own. So we were able to purchase a freezer for the school, because they didn't have that in their budget, but they had money to pay the cooks. So the cooks came in for 3 special days in, I think it was August. Whatever, they went and picked all the peaches, brought them all back to the kitchen, processed them, and froze them. And so they had local Arkansas peaches for Farm to School Month in October. They brought the old guy from Peach Pickin' Paradise. Little girls were kissing his hand, and he'd never been a rock star around a bunch of kids before, and it was just, the whole thing was amazing. They brought in their delegates, their representatives, and, it was just fun. But they'd first started rolling out the peaches to test them, and they just got soggy, goopy on the salad bar. And so they're like, well, this isn't working, and we can't make peach cobbler every week, although they loved it. So they started putting them out frozen. So when the kids got in the line, they're still kind of crunchy and almost like a little popsicle, and man, those peaches were about gone. They had to hide some to save them for the special day when the representatives were coming for lunch. So there's all kinds of tricks to getting kids to eat new things or local foods, and how we can change those systems within a pretty tight, now I got a 6-week menu and boom, 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 and I've only got so many cents a kid. You know, it really has to get worked out between the farmer and the school purchasing person. So in Cherokee County, with the Cherokee Nation, we created a market to school program because everyone gives away incentives to go to the farmer's market, and we know that only about 20% of those incentives are ever picked up or used. So we created Veggie Bucks for us in our town, and we went into the schools. So the 2 or 3 days before the event, I would go in. I have a 10-year-old organic farmer, my meat grower, up the road, and so he's, you know, barefoot and homeschooled and brilliant, and talking photosynthesis to these kids, and the little girls are, ooh. And I mean, it's just so fun. It's so fun. And to see kids get so excited about vegetables. So then the next day, we bring about 5 of the farmers market's tents, set up the farmers market in their schoolyard. They get a bag, and they get $6 to $12, depending on the budget, of Veggie Bucks to shop. And so I had told them, now talk to your mom. You're going to go home, plan a dinner. You know, what are you going to be able to buy? Everything's about $3 a box. Some of the girls were buying boxes and trading. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on. One little boy rode home on the bus and ate all of his dill. That wasn't pretty. Stomach ache, diarrhea, a whole night. You know, we get the phone call the next day from the school, but he won't do it again. No harm, no foul. He's not sick. He's okay. Out in Stillwell, they only had 4 vendors at the farmer's market, so the egg guy wanted to come. We're like, okay. 12 dozen eggs went home on, you know, rural school buses. Not one egg broke. Those kids had money. It was so amazing. When you give them some power, it just is incredible. And they come out one class at a time, and they're held back, and the teacher says, okay, go. And they took off screaming like the circus is in town. It's a farmer's market. I mean, it was the most amazing thing ever. Some of the quotes and things these kids, I bought all jalapenos. Honey, you know those are hot, don't you? This is my daddy's favorite. You know, I mean, it's that kind of, it's just so cool. So we know, 7th graders, the teachers were like, nah, Mountain Dew and Doritos, forget it. So we started in 4th grade, moved to 3rd, and we're down to 2nd. And it's so fun. And if you do a food test, don't let them say, I hate it. You know, you give them all a marker, and you can say, I tried it, I liked it, never again. Or I loved it. You know, but don't let them say, yeah, you know, because the minute one starts, it's over. But anyway. So there's money to schools. There's exploring new foods. There's really creating an economic empowerment of you can go buy vegetables and go home and make dinner, and it's really fun. And then drag your mom to the farmer's market. Oh, by the way, if you have Veggie Bucks left over, they'll take them downtown on Saturday. You know, so there's all kinds of ways to create this. And that was money through the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, and National Institutes of Health. So there's creative ways. The nation didn't have that money, but we made it work. And high tunnels for season extension. On the, is that my right? You can see the ancient, you know, Indian, you know, just get the old grapevines and make your tunnel. We've been making longhouses since dirt. But this is now all high-tech, high tunnels. You can grow way into the winter, lots of greens. So these are chilies in New Mexico that they started early. I don't know how they did it in the heat, but these are unheated. They're not like a greenhouse. So there's lots of ways to be creative so that, for instance, I could then be selling greens to the school all the way up into November or December. So again, the seasonality and being able to provide in off seasons and figuring out specialty crops, you know, what is that they might need to use. I'm planting a whole bunch of garlic, that's for one thing. So some school solutions, and I've probably talked through most of this, is incorporating some traditional foods, especially if you have Native students. You know, there's a time in the year where you can have Blue corn mush, say for Navajo, I mean, that's a big deal, but they have very few growers to supply enough blue corn for a lot of schools. So again, we have to encourage our farmers to start growing or foraging things that would then go into an indigenous meal. The salad bars, there's funding out there for salad bars. Probably most of your schools have them, ours don't. But there's Get Salad Bars to School, and so there's some money. Thank you, Michelle Obama. School gardens and orchards, and they always need volunteers. Once the school lets out in May, that garden sits there, but it could be replanted in July so that there's food when the kids come in. One of our schools has a small orchard. They have 8 fruit trees. I think we have about 14 school gardens in our region. The Cherokee Nation covers a 14-county region, and we fund 35 schools within that region, and they're all our kids. They don't have to have a card. They're all our kids. This is our community. And so 15 of the schools were granted farm-to-school grants, which they've bought greenhouses, put in gardens. The second graders wanted to revive the garden and raise some money. It just blows me away that these kids can get so excited, and if you just let them lead, they will go for it. Again, student-led projects, the seed saving, sprouting, beehives, the greenhouses, collecting stories from your family, collecting recipes, collecting those family culture pieces, and being able to talk about that is really important. And connecting elders and youth in gardens, and that's where some of the master gardeners can be those volunteers, and that's a really good thing. Again, seed saving, there's nothing like heirloom seeds. They are so gorgeous. They last longer, they store better, they're locally adapted, they're tastier. As we said, they're more nutritious. Cherokee Nation has a seed bank. We have an ethnobotanist and a growing system, so we know that they're not contaminated, but they haven't been crossbred with anything else. Native seeds that are local, wild senna, buttonbush, jewelweed. So those are ones that we see out in the wild. But then heirloom seeds are available for gourds, corn, tobacco, and the Trail of Tears beads. I have some Trail of Tears black beans that are pretty amazing. Every February, everyone that's a member of the nation gets an email that says you can pick 2 types of seeds. We'll send them to you in the mail. Just send us your card and your choice. So I think that's been running for about 5 years now. So we're encouraging farming by that too as well, just to put those seeds out there. And of course, I got to go back to the bees. Honeybees have been around for 1 million years, and they're pollinating over 1/3 of our food supply. So the more we lose on the bee end, the more we're going to lose on food. We just have to have the bees. There's many, many types of bees that do different types of pollination of different plants. But cross-pollination helps at least 30% of the world's crops and 90% of our wild plants to live. So we've got to have these pollinators. Whatever you're doing in your backyard, plant something for the bees so they'll come through, something red, something pretty. This is a swarm I caught last year. This is my 3rd year with bees. I had some in the 70s, but that was a past life, and I don't remember anything. So, you were there, you don't remember. It's amazing when they swarm. I was sitting in the middle of the field, and they took off and flung around and went over my truck, and I was like, whoa, what was that? That's all my bees. And it was probably about 90,000 bees came out of that hive. We start with about 30,000 in a small box, is when you start a box. And the queen is in the center of them, and they're not going to sting you. They're not going to do anything. They don't want to eat. They don't want to do anything except protect her when they're swarming. So if you see a swarm show up in your backyard, you can shake that into a cardboard box and call a beekeeper. They're not going to sting you. Don't be afraid. Don't spray them, please. Let them move on. They'll just keep moving until they find a big tree with a good hole in it or somewhere to live. And they'll find it. They'll just keep moving. It's pretty amazing. So some of the plants that I don't know if I can do this, that they pollinate, which is a pretty lengthy Alfalfa are the leafcutter bees and honeybees. Almonds are the honeybees. So when we saw the honeybees killed in California about 3 weeks ago, they were almonds. And so we need to worry, you almond drinkers need to worry about this out there. Because those almonds won't go without the honeybees. Anise, apple, apricot, avocado, banana, blueberry, cardamom, cashew, cherry, chocolate, coconut, coffee, coriander, cranberry, dairy products, figs, grapes, grapefruit, kiwi fruit, macadamia nut, mango, melon, nutmeg, papaya, peach, pear, peppermint, pumpkin, raspberry, sesame, strawberry, sugarcane, tea plants, tequila, tomato, and vanilla. All of those are pollinated by bees or honeybees. And those are the foods that we can lose as we continue to use pesticides and not pay attention to the environment and what these animals need. For natives, we consider these animals to be really relatives of ours, and we couldn't do it, when in our prayers we pray to those winged ones, those with fins in the water, and those who don't walk on two legs, and we really have to be concerned about that. So just sharing your knowledge. This corn is what I call corn smut, an agricultural term of most farmers look at it and go, smut, get rid of it, throw it away. But it's huichol, I don't do Mexican, but it's a delicacy in Mexico. So you'll find this in high-end Mexican restaurants, fried. It's a delicacy. So we need to know, even when it looks bad, it might be edible, and it might be really good for you, and might have some medicine in it. And the other photo is, again, of us in Cherokee County. We have community centers way out. We're very rural. So we taught, the Cherokee Nation sponsored, and we taught blackberry jam, and everyone went home with jam. We even brought the blackberries for those people. So, but it's really important that people realize they can do this. And like about an 83-year-old Cherokee grandma was there, and I said, now you know how to can. You grew up canning. And she said, yeah, but we never use that pectin stuff, and I want to make sure I'm doing it right, that I'm making it safe for my grandkids. And it was just tore my heart out. It was so cute and sweet that she wanted to do it right, so she was there to take the class and learn. And I thought we could sit here and learn from her for days, but it was important to her to do it right and for food safety. So you all know a lot. I've read some things about what's going on here on campus with the food banks, and really extend that out into gardening and community gardens, farmers markets, community-supported agriculture where you pay your farmer ahead of time and get your food every week. Or there's a lot here at Cherry Tree. That's not right. What am I trying to say? Cherry Street Market. So my neighbors come up to Cherry Street, and they run their CSA out of there, Mike and Emily Appel. So there's just some amazing growers to go out and check out. We all vote. We all vote every day with our money. We vote with whatever little bit of money we have. And I would like to vote and put it in the hands of other farmers. When we went to South Africa, when I shopped, I put it in the hands of women. We were shopping against racism. But it's that thing of knowing who your farmer is, knowing where the food is around you, and what you can do within that system. Like I said, running websites and Facebook doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot if you're really getting someone's products out there, or you're bringing folks into conferences like this. There's a role for everyone in this. There's a lot of business, a lot of economics, doing the math. We all need a little help with that. Farmers are using drones now in their fields. There's all kinds of amazing things that are going on with technology. And yeah, that's me and my first horse. So, and you can follow me, Real Foods and Native Communities on Facebook, or I'm down the street. So hopefully I'll be selling honey next year. And I think there's time for questions. Thank you. Yes?
Some college students a few years ago to the Nickel Preserve near you.
Yes.
And it was interesting. These are scientists. They were Native American Indians. And they shared earlier, all that mass information is not bogus.
Right, and we didn't need computers to do it. Somehow we had a little brain power that we stirred up on our own, and we can do that again. And now we have all these tools to help us. So I have a lot of hope for the future, and especially with young people getting into it. The Clemson University has an amazing farm and big bee setup, and Berea College in Kentucky. So, I mean, there's just a lot of universities and colleges taking this on, a lot more different degrees that you can get in this universe of, and the research of what we're finding, of the soils are healthier. You know, even at no-till, you still go a lot deeper. Your roots go deeper. Those ancient systems worked, so thank you.
Hey there, Zachary Austin with Crossroad Community Impact. I love all the stuff that you're involved with. It's so awesome. How can we help with the things that you are doing? Like, what can we do to preserve Native American plants, and like what do you ask of us?
Cool. I think there's some brownfields right here in Tulsa you can take over and plant. Start a seed saving club, you know, do whatever you can. Get involved in your community gardens, the food banks. You can grow food and take to the food banks so that it's not just cans going out that door. There's so many ways. If you can help with a school garden, what is your specialty and what is your passion, and how do you share that and speak that, and volunteer. I've volunteered, you know, half of my work is volunteer, because I'll get paid for what I do, and then I'll go out and do everything I love, you know, because that fills me up. So find what you love too. Don't find a job you don't really enjoy. Do what you love and it will pay. Okay, and then up here.
As a coordinator for a community garden over in the Kendall Whittier area, we're working to try and incorporate more native species, create a better, you know, small range ecosystem. So where would be a good way? Do you guys utilize seed swaps, or not utilize? Sorry. Do you guys conduct seed swaps within the Tulsa area, or is this specific to any part of Oklahoma? Because I'm an avid seed saver, and I love being a part of seed swaps, but I don't ever know about them, or there's not a lot of advertisement going out because it's generally a very specific group of people that participate.
Yeah, ours is just a small group. There's maybe 6 to 10 of us, and we kind of meet once a month, and it's very informal, but there are very formal ways to do this and ways to turn up that knob. Let's turn on the gas. You know, do we have a seed swap of Country City and bring a number of folks together to make that happen? Or we have a pretty amazing guy in Tahlequah that really helped seed savers for years and years, and he's one of their great growers. He could come and speak. I mean, there's so many ways. Pat Gwynn at the Cherokee Nation is an ethnobotanist. Bring him up. You know, there's no charge. There's, you know, the nation covers all the way up into this area. So if I push from the inside and you push from the outside, you know, we can make things happen. Just let's be creative. And it's really about these relationships that make things happen. It's not administrators and money, really. It's people getting together and going, okay, I got this and this. What do you got? You know, and maybe we could do a quarterly, larger thing. Yeah. Yeah, there's my email. I'm always on the computer, so. I'd like here first, and then we'll come back.
I love this idea of mini farmers markets at the schools, and I was curious how that, logistically, how that worked for you, how much produce needed to be brought for how many students, and if there's already an established system that could be mimicked somewhere else.
Well, I'm proud to say we're the first one in the country. They're now doing it in Georgia, and so we're trying to write that up. Yay. And just because we were creative, it's like, they're not going to go to the farmer's market. How do we get around this? So we're trying to write that up, and we had a head count, you know, of, okay, we're doing 3 third grade classes, we have 160 kids, and they're all getting $12. You know, so you just kind of back the math up, and the farmers treated it just like another Saturday. So we did it on a Tuesday, so they've had time to go home and repick and get ready again. We've never run out of anything, and the farmers love it. It's another sales day for them. There was one more question?
Well, just how many farmers were there? And then I'm curious, was the money provided through a grant?
Yes, from the CDC to the Cherokee Nation, from the Cherokee Nation down to the schools, to me, yeah. And then the farmers got their money out of the veggie bucks. So they turn those in at the end, and we give them cash.
And how many farmers participated?
Oh, 6. I mean, we're small, but that's how you start. And it's easier. It's more manageable, you know. Last year we did 8 schools, and we only went once, one day to one school. And so it's, you know, all those kids with their veggie bucks come out one at a time over a 3-hour period. There may be better ways. That's just how we figured out how to do it. But we're trying to write that up now because it is something that could be rolled out and pushed out, and people are starting to do it. Some of the schools are, like in Arizona and Hawaii and Molokai, those school gardens are growing enough to take to the farmer's market and sell on Saturdays. So they make their money to pay back in their garden and buy equipment. So there's then connections between the schools and the outer economics of a farmer's market. So that's even better. Of, you know, encourage them to become players in the economy and in the big game. You know, it doesn't just have to happen at the schools, but it's a great start. Was there one more? Yes.
Hi, I'm a student from OSU Stillwater, and I was just wondering if a Native American community can completely be self-sustainable in terms of food. Can you grow your own food without going to, you know, the market or the grocery store?
We could, if we had started about 30 years ago. Because of the reservation systems that are not in Oklahoma, there was so much commodities. But in the 1880s, commodities were going to the reservations, the 1890s. So, you know, the commods, the boxes of food, the white flour, the white sugar. By 1942, the commodities were at all tribes, and we got diabetes for the first time. So we know that the loss of our traditional ways really led to our health interruptions. And so a lot of tribes are looking at that and wanting to get back into it because the cost of our health care is off the charts. There's tribes in Arizona that have special hospitals just for dialysis. I mean, it's really bad. So it's a big conversation in the Indian Agricultural Council. It's about 53 tribes. The Intertribal Bison Association is a big deal, and they're bringing bison back to the tribes. Our tribe had 33 years ago, and now we have 60 bison. So hopefully we can start putting some of that meat in the schools or back into people. So it's, how can we, there's enough land, but we've lost the will and the knowledge to take care of ourselves. So it's not just can we do it, it's a how do we shift everything and go back to that. In the 1775, the U.S. government did not want women to be farmers. They thought that was a man's job, so they gave all the women sewing machines and made all the men start farming. And the men were made fun of as if they were gay. They were doing women's work. And so, you know, they started taking all this away from us a long time ago by law. And so we just, women were always the farmers, so we lost everything at that moment in that transition. But, you know, I'm going way deep here. But yes, we could. We have land, and we have the access, and it's starting to happen. The tribes are stepping up. There's a lot going on here. We have 33 federally recognized tribes in Oklahoma. I'm hearing a lot going on from the Pawnee, the Ponca, the Osage, the Cherokee. Chickasaws have a candy factory. Did you all know they have a chocolate factory that's really good, like for 15 years? There's economics going on we don't even know about, so we don't talk to each other. Huh? Oh, I don't know. Google. My mind, it's, you know, my hard drive's full. I don't have much more room left. So I'm at my time, I believe, and I'd like to thank you all, and this was really fun.
We have breakouts. One will meet here, process of urban farming. 2 others